Hi, Scott. Welcome to the show officially.
Hello, Beth. Thank you for officially having me on this awesome podcast.
You're so welcome. I cannot wait to talk to you. We just started, and before I hit record, we were laughing about tech. Here's the thing.
Uh-huh.
I have, and it's been proven scientifically, a real allergic reaction to technology. My kids and my husband have seen it firsthand. They will
Mm-hmm.
like say, "Mom, this thing works fine." And then they give it to
Mm-hmm.
me and it doesn't. And they're like, "Oh," and they witness it and they see it and they're like, "Mom,
Right.
just push this button and turn it on." And then it does. And I'm like, "Okay." Now,
I know.
now you could think like, "Well, Beth, that's your family and haha." No,
Uh-huh.
this weekend it was proven once again. I had a friend fly in for a wedding. We had a wedding over the
Uh-huh.
weekend. And the coffee maker. I mean, anything technical, really, truly, not even the computers. The coffee maker pod,
Mm-hmm.
the first person puts it in, my husband, no
Yeah.
problem. I put it in, boom, pow, explode, dripping powder, like just all the stuff everywhere, the groundings, everything.
Man.
I got to clean it, start over. The second person, I'm sorry, the third, my guest, she puts it in, hit start,
Mm-hmm.
no problem. And they're
No
just
problem.
both like, try it again. Why don't you try it again? I'm like,
Right.
I'm gonna. And I put it in, push start,
Mm-hmm.
same thing, all over, explosion. It's me, Scott. It's me.
I believe it or not, I have the same issues, believe it or not.
You do not.
I will be the person that goes to a restroom and out of a line of 8 sinks that are touchless, mine won't work. The person next to me, his will work. The person down from me, his will work. And then, so I'm just waving like a dork trying to get the water to come out. It finally comes out. And I'm, like an old dude, I'm talking to each of these guys going, yeah, this always happens to me.
Right,
And then
right.
when I try to do the soap dispense is the same way. No, no foamy soap. So, and then I'm over by the towels trying to get a towel, and I'm doing this.
You're a ghost.
I don't exist in the technology world.
Scott, what's the song? Taylor Swift.
Mhm.
It's me. I'm the
That's
problem.
right.
It's me. She wrote that for us,
I
really.
think so. I think so.
Scott, I had so much fun. I want to start off with the moment that we
All
had over
right.
the summer and go from there. It's a perfect lead in to talk to you. I'm so grateful you're here to join us because this is it's such an important part of your life, but also for everyone else who can know you through this experience that you
All
had.
right.
So, when we watched the movie Space Camp way back in the day as kids,
Mm-hmm.
this was our gateway to understand that there was a real place that accepted real people and students and
All
kids to
right.
come and maybe not have the Jinx ultimate thermal curtain failure experience, but but definitely just finding out that there was a place for us who were the space geeks enthusiasts was
Right.
like winning the lottery. And then this summer, I'm going to tell everyone the short version
Mm-hmm.
because we all get invited back to the wonderful Space Camp Alumni Weekend. This
Right.
summer was unique that we got to see the movie Space Camp under the stars outside, kind of next to the Pathfinder. And for so many of us who haven't seen it in a while, it was wonderful. It was our own refreshed experience. What was
Right.
it like for you coming back into that and introducing the movie as someone who had a major role in the movie?
I had a minor role, a little tiny
You
baby
did
role in
not.
it.
Nope. Mm-mm.
I I was really excited. Honestly, I'm always excited to do anything at the Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville. Going back in time when the movie when they were having a casting call, I think a lot of us saw it on the news that there was going to be a movie made at the back then it was called the Alabama Space and Rocket Center, and they were going to have a casting call. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Good luck to those people. And so my theater director calls me on a Sunday, and he says, Holcomb, what are you doing? And I said, I'm helping my mom.
Uh-huh.
And he goes, well, I need you to be at such and such on, I think it was Monday or Tuesday. And I said, Mr. Harris, what's wrong? Did I do something wrong? Because I'm thinking, because I just graduated from high school, from Johnson High School in Huntsville. And I thought maybe I messed something up or left something. And he goes,
Sure.
no, just be there. So I get to this, it was the hotel adjacent from the Von Braun Civic Center, where I just graduated from high school, that big
Oh,
ceremony.
love.
And, that was surreal to be across the street at these hotels. And there was this long line of people headed into, I think, a group of rooms. And so I stand in the back of the line because I don't know any better. I'm like, I was told to be here with you guys. What are you
Just
guys
showing
doing
up.
here? Right. I'm like, what are you guys doing here? This is cool. And they said, well, they're casting for parts in the movie Space Camp. And I said, this is for that? And I said, yeah. And I said, oh, cool. So I'm standing in the line, and then Mr. Harris comes and finds me, and he's got the casting director, and they're walking me towards this room. And the room's just filled with people who all of a sudden I'm supposed to pretend that, I just came from space camp, had a great summer, and now I'm coming back to this new space camp adventure the next summer. And I'm just kind of talking to a camera and saying, oh man, yeah, it was great. And that was my official audition. From that moment on, I was like, wow, I'm going to be in the movie. But the other thing that really stuck in my mind, as nerdy as this is, I mean, number one, this is a museum slash park slash program that's geared for like-minded folks, like you just opened up with. We are the nerdy space, aviation,
Yes.
science, so we get each other. I mean, we're the ones in cafeteria that are off to the corner just playing some D&D, but we're also talking about Star Trek, back then. And I was really cognizant that, man, if I get this movie, I might have a chance to work at this place during the summer. That was my big thing.
That
Not
was your
all,
thought.
right. Not, oh, this movie's going to be great. Da, 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 da. It was like, if I do this right, I can get a job at the Alabama Space and Rocket Center,
This is my
you know,
in. Yeah.
right.
Oh, Scott, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Hold
So
on.
coming
Two
back,
things.
it's just great.
Oh, so number one, you're helping your mom. So
Right.
sweet. Number two, I love how in so many of the stories of the great and incredible alumni and rock stars like you, there's always a person who was the enabler. Your
Yeah.
theater teacher, whether it was a
Yes.
science teacher, theater, I love that. And it
Right.
just took that one adult to get that. I mean, you just showed up because you were told, but you were
Right.
told, you were invited. Thank
Right.
you, theater
Right.
teacher.
Mr. Ron Harris, who was also in the movie, he was the guy that was fixing Jinx.
No way.
Yeah, in the white overalls, Mr.
Oh, I
Ron
didn't know
Harris.
that. Good for
Yeah,
him. He got
yeah.
it too. Did he get to go to space camp and work there for a summer?
I don't think so. Mr. Harris was too cool for that.
Too cool. Okay, so thank you for setting the scene. Now, walk us through. You're at the tryouts,
Right.
and okay, you do your stuff. Did
Hmm.
they tell you that day? Did they say, "Don't call us,
No,
we'll call you"?
that's exactly. I got that.
Really?
That was great. That was really great. We're gonna, we'll let you know. We'll let you know. And so I
Oh,
went home and I was like, again, I never really thought of it. And I know that sounds so weird because I was this high school theater nerd, but this was different. This was acting in front of a camera, which, I really had never done much before. And so, my mom said, how did it go? I said, well, that movie that we saw in the news that they were making at the Space and Rocket Center, it was audition for that. She goes, oh, okay. I need your help with the laundry. Let's
your mom keeps
go
it
hang the
real.
clothes up outside, right? And so I think we waited 2 days, and then the phone rang, and my mom said, she back then in the 80s, it was one phone.
Yes,
And
yes.
so she says, you have a phone call. And I picked it up. And that's when they, thanked me for coming out. I did really well. We'd like to offer you a part in the movie. It's a
Oh my
character by the name of
gosh.
Hideo Takamine. Is that something you'd be interested in? And I said, heck yeah, yeah. You know,
So what were
so
you, 18, 17?
uh,
High
I think it was
school?
about 17 years old. Yeah, going on
Wow.
18, right? October
Okay.
is when I was born. So yeah,
Okay. Oh my
yeah.
gosh. Where were you in that moment when you were at home with the phone call and then what did
In
you
the
say?
kitchen.
Like,
You're
Mom,
right.
I'm in.
I did. I said, Mom, I got the part. She goes, That's great. We got to get those clothes down now because
Your mom
it
sounds
might
like a
rain.
realist.
Right. But
Your
and she
mom
was
keeps you
always
warm.
that, my mom's this tiny Thai woman. My dad's this blonde-haired, blue-eyed army guy. They met in during the Vietnam War, and my mother is very an ultra realist. When she knew that I was in high school plays, she kind of thought that was a waste of time. But
Oh,
what could you do? And she said, "Well, what do you have to do?" I said, "I have to go to the Space and Rocket Center, and I'm supposed to be there at like 5:30 in the morning every day, and sometimes I'll be home late." And she said, "Oh, okay." And I said, "I'm going to have to drive, a car over there because I had just, you know." And she said, "Well, I can go with you just in case."
oh,
And I asked when I got there, I said, "Is it okay if my mom comes with me?" And they're like, "Yeah, we're actually going to do a few establishing shots, and your mom could, be your mom in the movie."
oh,
So, and the irony is when we played it on the big screen, we were able to borrow, thanks to another alumni, an awesome alumni, his Blu-ray copy. So we watched it in Blu-ray on this big screen. And that is the first time in the 5 times that I've watched Space Camp since 1986 that I actually saw my mother and I in background shots. And I was
she's in
so
the movie.
excited because number one, we were at the Space and
Oh,
Rocket Center. The sun is set. We were about to show the Space Camp movie at Space Camp, and somebody was foolish and gave me a microphone, and I was able to kind of drop in some narrations here and there. But seeing myself and my mom just, you know, years and years into the past, all that just kind of flooded back. And that just
oh,
gave me
yeah.
goosebumps while we were
Me
watching it.
too. All of us, Scott. I'm so grateful. I'm grateful they gave you a microphone because we got to hear your story. And that was
Right.
phenomenal. It must have been surreal. Yeah, to
It
like
was.
step back in time and take it
Yeah.
all in and then
Right.
to be in the place in which it all went down. How
Right.
cool. Who
It
gets to
was.
do that? Only a handful of people get to go back to their childhood home or that moment. What
Right.
would we be like if we as humans got to go back right before the first kiss or the moment
Right.
before you made the big decision or, how cool would that
Right.
be? And just to have that
Right.
a little part.
Nerdy secret. Sometimes you'll catch me just walking through the Space and Rocket Center, just reliving the moments in each part of because I was an employee of the Space and Rocket Center after the movie. I stayed
Yes,
there
tell
and
us
worked
how
there for
that
about
went.
6 years.
Did they
And
invite you? Did you apply? How did that
I
work?
did. I applied, and they were like, I think that's the guy that was in the movie Space Camp. Is that the guy? Yeah. Oh yeah, we'll hire him. You can work at the Space Dome Theater. And I was like, the
Oh,
theater? Oh man, I get to work at the Space Dome Theater and at the Space and Rocket Center. They were like, heck yeah, come on over. I
you
had a
didn't walk in
really
like this. Like here's my
no,
autographed
right.
photo for
No, I
you.
was just the most nerdiest, skinniest, half Asian, half European dork you ever saw. And I was just loving every minute. I'd be at work before I was supposed to be at work. I would stay late in
Oh,
the evening. I would volunteer for night functions. And it was just, and to be honest, that experience working at the Space Dome Theater, because we ran The Dream is Alive, Hail Columbia, all
yes,
that.
yes. I
We
remember
actually
this.
had astronauts who came just to watch the movie with, I think it was Cram Ferguson, so that they would understand what the finished product of them inside the space shuttle holding the camera and maneuvering the cam, what it
Wow.
would look like as an end product. So a lot of us got to meet those people, those amazing astronauts, pilots, when they would come in. Um, Evening functions were full of important, cool people in Huntsville and outside of Huntsville. And there was always food left over. So, I mean, that's a win-win.
Wow, Scott, this story just gets better and better. I
Right,
love
right.
this. Um, Did you get to introduce the movie?
No, actually, you mean like back then, back in
Yeah, in
time?
the theater. Were you like, welcome everyone, please be seated.
Yes,
Here's
I
the
love
movie.
that. I love getting on the microphone, and I still do it to this day. It's one of those where, welcome to the Space and Rocket Center, that kind of,
Yeah.
welcome to Space Dome Theater, that kind of stuff.
I love your
But,
voice. Perfect.
right.
Perfection. You're made to do this. Oh my gosh. So there you find yourself. You've done the
Right.
movie. Did the movie, were you working in the theater and the movie was still not yet released, but you had this
It,
job or
right, right. I was
okay.
already working and the movie was slowly coming out. And, back then there was no internet, of course. So we just kind of waited for uh, when you
Sure.
saw it on TV or in a newspaper that this movie was coming out. And I was talking to somebody during the alumni event, and I was like, I think it was David. I was talking to him, and I said, I never really got invited to the premiere because my character, was Hideo Takamine, the guy that got his badge stolen.
Uh,
It was a lot of it. It probably ended up on the editing floor, I'm sure, which was fine. Now that I'm older and I've done some amateur video editing, I get that. There's a lot of stuff that you're just like, oh, we can't use this, or it just doesn't work. It doesn't work well. And so I didn't get a chance to be one of those people invited to the premiere, and it kind of bummed me out at first because I was like, I'm in. I always feel like Charlie Brown when he goes up at Halloween, and everybody gets treats in their bag, and I go, I got to rock.
I gotta
Right. And that's how I felt going into this. But then the local radio station had a contest. They were giving away tickets to the premiere of the movie Space Camp, and I won a ticket.
no.
I was
Look
like,
at this. And I got a ticket.
right,
Oh, I love that movie too. That's a classic
right,
too. Okay, so you're seeing the premiere, so you're seeing the movie for the first time. But I have to
right.
ask before I get your initial reaction
Uh-huh.
of like, what was that like? Did you see the whole script or just read for the lines you had and you knew nothing more of the premise?
Right. I knew
That's what it
nothing
was?
else. Right,
Really? They're like, you're just going to
right,
stand here, have this
right.
interaction, say these words, but you didn't know that there was a robot named Jinx and you didn't know that there was going to
Mm-mm.
be, oh, wow.
No,
Okay.
it really folded in. It unfolded with, we're going to do background stuff, your background extra. Okay, everybody park their car, everybody walk out of their car, everybody look up, plane is crossing over us, blah, blah, blah. That's the one where Leah Thompson lands via the biplane. So we're looking up, we're walking in, up the sidewalk, etc., at the front of the Space and Rocket Center. We did that over and over in the hot Huntsville, Alabama sun,
Oh,
over and over.
it really
I
was
will say the
hot.
food is great, though. The food, when they do breakfast, lunch, and dinner, those were amazing breakfast, lunches, and dinners, to the
That's what
point
they
where my mother
say.
was like, I kind of like this acting thing. We get food and we get paid, because she got paid as well to be an extra,
Did
which was
she?
so nice of the cast. I mean, the crew. They were like, yeah, your mother can be an extra, and we'll go ahead and pay her as an extra.
All
She
good
loved that.
things. Okay,
Right,
so now we find yourself at the premiere. You're
right,
seeing the movie for the first time. What was your
right.
reaction? Also, I know you're out of high school now, but did you tell
Yeah.
everyone? Were you like, I'll see you at the movie that I'm in?
No, I am, even
So
back then
humble.
I was like, matter of fact, I was working at Kroger as well. I was trying to do two jobs. So Space and Rocket Center and Kroger. When I
Oh,
wasn't working at the Space and Rocket Center, I was working at Kroger. And I remember asking my boss, I gotta take the day off because I didn't want to say I gotta go to a movie. So I was like,
that you're in. You didn't even tell your
right.
boss.
I didn't tell him that. I just said I have my mom and dad need me to do something. So I got off, ran to the movie theater, slipped in, and sat there. And again, it was very surreal. I'm sitting there, just enjoying the moment of being this guy who is going to be encapsulated in film, for the rest of my life, in this small part, which to me was huge. And even back then, at almost 18 years old, I knew that this was just so cool. I mean, this was my 15 seconds, 15 minutes of fame or whatever. And so I just sat there and I didn't get any popcorn. I didn't get any soda because I didn't want to have to run to the restroom for anything.
Right.
And so
Right.
the movie begins. And again, like we just went through, I don't know what it's going to look like. But I heard that John Williams had done the music. I was like, oh my! Even back then, I was such a nerd that I loved music scores. Um, and when I heard that John Williams did the music, and when the trailer came out, that music just blew my mind. And so when the movie started, it was like a ride of just pure adrenaline, pure heart racing. Oh, this is so cool! I remember this shot. I remember that. I remember this part. That space shuttle is not in the back of the Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, Alabama.
Yeah.
No, there's no secret road that takes you to the space shuttle. Right.
What? Wait, what? No, I get it. All this confusion
Right.
because they really built this whole beautiful storyline around this
Right.
potential, an anomaly, as they say in the
Right.
industry. But yet, and it's so cute because all the space campers and alumni are like, we don't want to give our secrets away. We're like,
Right.
sure, yeah, there's totally these things that are
Mm-hmm.
possible. We do all
Right.
these. There's a kid who's from like now we would call it like not junior camp, but like level one that gets to be
Right.
with the high schoolers up there, and he just snuck
Right.
in, right? And then you
I
went to,
know.
so in the movie, you went to another team, like the purple team or something, right?
Yeah, I was supposed to be blue team, and then Tate Donovan, the awesome, amazing actor, just sneaks up behind me, and I love that camera shot of him just leaning over my shoulder. And I remember that taking at least 4 or 5 shots. And here's the cool part about that spot where that happened. That was at the entrance of the Space and Rocket Center's Space Dome Theater. So I was stationed there for like 6 years, just standing taking tickets and ushering people into the theater. So it was cool being in the same spot that the movie was filmed at, my part of it, and I kept going back over meeting Leah Thompson and getting to work with her. She was so gracious that the camera was aimed at me and I was just doing my lines, kind of talking to someone off camera that, yeah, I'm glad to be back. The summer was great, that kind of stuff. And she just decided that she was going to get, after they did it the second time, she kind of positioned herself towards near the lens. So it gave me someone to actually talk
Oh,
to
so
instead of
sweet.
just staring at the camera.
Yeah.
And that really helped as well. So you kind of see me looking over to the side, and that was me looking at Leah Thompson, just kind of
Really?
being an actor who said, "Hey, what if I did this? Maybe this is going to help this new guy out." And I
That's
thought that was
so
so
sweet.
cool. And when we had a little break, I was like, "Hey, Leah, will you do me a favor?" And I said, "I know this is so terrible, but I just have to ask you. I have this magazine, and back then everything was magazine, and it was a magazine from the movie Back to the Future, one of my
Uh-huh.
favorite movies.
I was
Here I
hoping.
am, right here I am, standing next to Leah Thompson, who was just in Back to the Future. I was so excited, and I said, "Could I get you to sign my fan magazine?" She said, "Yeah, of course, Scott. What is it? Let me see it." She spent like 10 minutes looking through it because she had never seen the stills, because she went from
Oh,
one movie to another movie to another movie, and she was just in awe. And she was doing the same thing, just kind of recognizing moments in the filming. And she was just enjoying that break in time where she got to be a fan of the
oh,
movie instead of just being, I think, parts of the movies that she has been in.
and you
And
got
so
to
she, of
witness
course,
that.
signed it for me, and that's still at my house in plastic. That's one of my treasures. Yeah.
Oh, how sweet. That's really great. I would hope that she would be that person because
Right.
the characters she portrays are that person as well, just kind and
Right.
sweet and
Oh yeah,
humble and
she's very sweet. Tate Donovan as
oh,
well. Very, very kind.
good.
Very, definitely the big brother role that you see in the movie. That's definitely Tate Donovan.
It's him.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh my gosh, wonderful. Did you get to meet Tom Skerritt and some of the other characters too?
Tom Skerritt. Somebody asked me before about the actors that I met. Tom Skerritt. only briefly, and it was the scene closest to um, the the side of the Space and Rocket Center's theater. And the funny part was he was talking, and some of the kids that were part of Space Camp, not part of the movie, but just Space Camp, because Space Camp was still running when we were filming. They were still doing it in tandem with the movie, but they
Nice.
made sure not to get any of the kids in it. So Space Camp is running. There's a group of kids lined up going into the backside of the Space Dome Theater because they couldn't go in the front because they were still filming other parts.
Oh,
And so I'm standing maybe 5 feet from them, 4 feet or whatever. And I hear these kids saying, "Who's that old guy?" And he picked up on that,
oh,
and he said, "Well, I'm Tom Skerritt." And they just kind of looked at him, and he goes, "From the
oh.
movie Alien. Did you guys see the movie Alien?" And the kids were like, "Are you the guy that had the thing come out of his chest?" And he was like, "No, that's not it." But little
He
did
didn't
they
say
know that
Top
he would be in
Gun.
Top Gun. No.
Right, right. Was
Mm-mm.
that after?
I think
That
it was
was,
after. Right.
gosh, all these great movies the same
Mm-hmm.
time. Back
Right.
to the
Kate
Future,
Capshaw was an
Space Camp.
amazing person that I didn't get to see much of, but she was definitely cool.
Oh,
Um, uh, Scott Coffey, one of the background actors, I kept in touch with him via Facebook for a little while. He was really cool. And then, of course, and the actor who played, he was in Revenge of the Nerds.
oh
God,
yeah. Yeah.
uh, blame my head, not my heart. I am
I know the name escapes me
drawing a
too.
blank. Right, but he was amazing as well. He was probably the most dynamic. Um, uh,
Rudy.
Rudy, and he was a seasoned actor. He went on to do some amazing work and still is working. But yeah, it was just great meeting all these people. And there was a point in time where we took a break and we went into a cast trailer, and they were all like, "Hey, Scott, it'd be cool if you came with us. What do you think about coming to California? We know some people. We can get you some more acting jobs." And I was like, "Man, you guys are so cool, but you don't understand. My mom would literally kill me
My
because
gosh.
I'm supposed to go to college." And they were like, "Well, what? What are you going to be when?" I said, "She wants me to be a doctor, but I don't think I want to be a doctor because I'm not really good at math." I'm like, "Man, there's enough doctors. Why don't you come with us? And, because we've been doing this stuff, we can introduce you to people that do this stuff."
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, "No, you guys just don't get it. But thanks anyways."
Oh my gosh. Have you ever told anyone that story?
Oh yeah, my wife, especially my wife, April,
I hate to
back
say
then it
no
was
to
April
this.
Ford. She was my wing commander when we worked when I worked as a crew trainer back then. It was a camp counselor. She was
Yeah.
my wing commander, and 30 something years later, she's still my wing commander.
Oh,
But she
that
was
is
my
so
boss at Space
special.
Camp. We met and we fell in love. But I told her that story, and she always asked me, she said, "Do you ever think about what if you would have said yeah?" And I said, "Well, then I would never have met you.
Oh,
And, I would never have gone through the adventures of a graduate student in Auburn and becoming a counselor and then becoming, a teacher. And then, all that stuff would have been in a different trajectory in life."
yeah. Or as they
But
say
yeah,
in Loki, a different alternative
yeah,
reality on the
exactly. I was just thinking that.
line. Were you really? We're on the same
Right. I
page,
was.
Scott.
I was like,
Well, this is
multiverse. Yeah.
the multiverse. Yes, I love this. I
Right.
love talking to you. We're all living through you. You know this, even this walk down memory lane. But okay, I really want to talk about what you just alluded to, and that was like life after your movie experience
Right.
and all these things. It sounds like you were perfectly meant to go on to do the things you were setting out to do. Um,
Right.
but I just want to take a moment here because I know exactly what my listeners and audience are thinking. Like, Beth, you are talking to someone who is part of this cult and this wonderful capture and artistry of what was this gateway we were talking about earlier for so many people. So
Right.
I don't did you possibly know that at the time, or did it grow through the years? And did Space Camp, you were there, you said, for 6 years. Were you seeing the
Right.
effects of the movie from
I
the
did.
movie?
I did.
Wow.
It was an amazing movement towards. I remember after the movie came out, um, I'm that. I loved the uniform at the Space and Rocket Center. It was a flight suit. It changed different colors per like every 3 years or something like that, every 2 years. And I was always so proud to wear the flight suit. And I think we had an ascot that put on. That was kind of cool as
Oh,
well.
yeah. Yeah.
But I would stand out there and Space Camp, would still go, and space campers, new space campers would come in and go see the movie as part of, what they do at Space Camp. And all of a sudden, there was this commotion of a group of campers, and they were pointing towards me. And their counselor had whispered that, hey, you guys want to see the guy that was in the movie Space Camp? And the kids were like, what? Yeah. I said, that's him right there. And someone were like, no, how can that be him? I said, yeah, that's the guy who played Hideo Takamine that got his badge taken. And all of a sudden they would get in line and they would have me sign their space camp binder or their
Yes.
book or a
Yes.
sheet of paper. That really made me feel so humbled. And then all of a sudden, because of the kids, there were patrons, adults who were like, hey, who is this guy? And they were like,
Yeah.
the kids were like, he was in the movie Space Camp. And so they got in line. It got to a point where my boss was like, this is cool, Scott, but it's a traffic jam. So we're just going to put you inside for a little while and we'll bring someone out to take tickets and all that.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
that was cool. And then uh, working in the museum, getting selected to do cool things. Like we actually had this robot. I forget the name of this robot. And just like I forgot the name of the actor that played Rudy, and sorry, Rudy. But I'll remember. I know it'll flashback. But we had this robot at the Space and Rocket Center that they leased. And one night they were like, Scott, we got this robot. Do you want to do the voice? It takes two
Oh,
people, one to move the robot and one to do the
oh,
voice. I said, heck yeah. And it manipulated my voice so you really couldn't tell. But I had so much fun just hiding upstairs while there was a party
oh,
going on.
yeah.
And, the robot driver would drive it and I'd be like, hello, how was your evening? That kind of corny
That's
stuff.
so
But
fun.
yeah,
So I
that was
need you on
cool.
my trivia team, Scott. If you
All
worked in the
right.
museum, you know the stuff that's in the museum and you know your
This,
space
this
history. So,
this is the bad thing about me at the museum. Museum closed. All the people were out. This guy was running around going inside spaces I should not have been in and pretending like I'm an astronaut, stuff
why
like
is
that
that
was
bad?
me.
That's
I
amazing.
I know.
Again, we're living through you, Scott. Isn't
Right.
that
I'm
so
I'm like I'm
cool?
hopping in that capsule
Where
because
did you
there's
go?
nobody
Did
telling
you
me
really?
no. I
Yeah,
did.
baby. I do the same thing. I would do
I
the same thing. Wait, did I do the same thing? No, I'm just kidding. Some of us counselors, we don't they make, correct me if I'm wrong, don't all the counselors that go through crew training have to do the missions the kids do? We have to do the whole
right.
thing. Yeah. So there were
Yeah.
our moments too. I think those were our moments where we're like,
Yeah.
we get to sit in the
Right.
multi-axis trailer. Oh,
Right.
right. Trainer, excuse me. But I went as a camper and then I back as a
Right.
counselor. But I would totally like you did, like you said, if the lights are off and the
Right.
doors are locked, put me in coach. Don't
Exactly.
tell anyone I touched
Right.
it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'm taking selfies back in the late 80s of myself with my 35 millimeter camera trying to hold it, and then me holding
Yes.
the flight controller with the headset on. Just kind of I did
Did
that.
your wife know at the time that you were doing all this?
You know, I
Was she
I
part of the
don't
shenanigans of after museum hours?
know. She was very much a rule follower. I was more of the
Commander.
don't tell April, that kind of stuff. But yeah,
How sweet.
it's
So you
yeah,
met at space camp.
yeah. She was my
Oh my.
boss. I was one of her. I don't know what. We just knew her as our wing commander, someone who was
Yeah.
over us. Yeah, We had
Oh,
a
she's
great
still
time.
the boss, right? Still
Yes,
commanding. I
always
love
the
it.
boss.
Well said. Okay. Oh my goodness. So
Right.
is your family, your kiddos, whether they're your students or family, do they
Mhm.
have the same space camp enthusiasm and experience, or is it just kind of like, okay, all right, we get it?
Yeah. I think my daughter, I thought she would be, into, she wasn't.
Yeah,
She
same.
she appreciates that her dad was in the movie Space Camp, and she tells people, but she has her claim to fame too. She decided to dabble in acting, so she got a little bit of
Did
work
she?
as an extra, and then her big claim to fame, which she's just like me, very humble. She doesn't like people to know about it, but of course, as parents, you're always going to tell everybody. But she's in the music video for ABCDEFU, the music video from Gale. So she's
Oh,
in that video. She's the
really?
half Asian, half black, half European looking, long haired child,
Oh my
So
goodness.
that's her. She got definitely longer than I did. So I told her, well, you won in the family.
Yeah.
You got it.
She's like, Dad, watch me.
Right, right.
That's so cute.
Right.
Yes.
And
Oh
then
my
I think my
goodness.
wife was watching something and her video showed up in Times Square. And she said, Isabella, you're on the big Jumbotron at Times Square. But Isabella
Oh
was
my
like,
gosh.
yeah, that's great. Don't tell anybody.
Oh, sweet. That's so sweet. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. It's like hearing my own voice on the podcast. I'm like,
Mhm.
nope. But okay.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so now let's go back to so you recognized you got to see because you got to work there
Right.
this influx of people like me and many, many thousands more that were like,
Right.
and to be fair, there was a book too that
Hmm.
accompanied the movie with those same actors. So it wasn't like Rudy is a person. It was like Rudy from the movie was the book
Right.
character Rudy.
Right.
So you could recognize him and everyone else. And that book was what many of us read first, and then we found the movie. And then we were like, wow, if it's a movie, it's got to be real. And then there we go. And we're on our journey and on our way. So thank you. Okay, I want to go back to on behalf of everyone who's ever attended space camp in the 80s, 90s,
Mhm.
or thereafter. Thank you. Let me make sure I get that in because everyone's thinking it.
Right.
Uh, and they're probably going to want to be like, so when the mics turn off and you guys really talk about the stuff he did in the museum and what he
Hmm.
got to see and do,
Hmm.
we want to hear that too. Okay, so tell us now your journey from post space camp. And you said you were working the two jobs, but then you went back to school and
Right.
take us from there.
Yeah. Before I do that, Larry Scott, I am so sorry. I did not remember your name, Larry B. Scott, who played Rudy
There it
and
is.
many other characters. But, yeah, I went to undergraduate at the University of Alabama in Birmingham.
Okay.
Um, and I majored in psychology and minored in theater because I was like, I did theater in high school. It'd be cool to dabble in college theater.
Yes.
And didn't do that much because I was really concentrating on getting in and getting out fast. And then quickly, here's my mom. Mom, I just graduated from the University of Alabama in Birmingham. She's like, great. When are you going to get your master's degree?
Oh,
So I
ah,
went and got my master's I started at Alabama A&M in Huntsville. And my girlfriend at the time, April, who's still my wife, she was going off to Auburn. And, we had this 80s long distance relationship where I would sneak to the University of Alabama in Huntsville and get on the phone that everybody knew would make long distance phone calls for free. Thank you,
oh.
UAH. But I didn't abuse it. I only stayed on for like 5 minutes. But I would call April and just talk to her, and I really missed her. And
Oh,
so I'm in graduate school at Alabama A&M. I'm also an Army ROTC because my dad was in the
nice.
military lifelong. He did retired from the military and then joined civil service and worked at Redstone Arsenal. So he
Wow.
probably put in 56, 57 years in the military.
Oh,
But he
wow.
always told us, my brother Steve and I, that we should not join the military. He said 4 generations was enough, and he was very adamant. He was in the Vietnam War. My grandfather was in World War II, and it just goes on for 4 generations. And so everything we grew up on was still green Army life, but you two do not go. And so, of course, my brother in high school, he did Marine Corps Junior ROTC,
Oh,
but
he
he
went
didn't join
Marine.
right, but he didn't join the military.
Okay. Okay.
I did nothing like that in high school. I just did a little bit of it in college, but I decided not to. But I say all that because here I am at Alabama A&M in graduate school studying
What were you
to
studying?
counseling. I was going to, well, I
Oh,
became a counselor. So I was studying community agency counseling. And so I go to my professor and I say, Sir, I really heard that Auburn University has a really great graduate program, and I'm just kind of, just schmoozing this over. And he looks at me and goes, Holcomb, what's her name? And I said, what? He said, what's her name? I
oh,
said, I said, what do you mean? He goes, what's her name? I said, how'd you know her name is April? He goes, yes, I will. I think you'd be great at Auburn's graduate program. I'll, write you a letter of
did
recommendation.
he
He knew I
really?
was trying to follow my back then girlfriend, now my wife.
So another enabler.
Right. So he was
Oh,
there to bridge that gap. And, with his help, I got into Auburn's graduate program and finished up there in the College of Education with my master's in community agency counseling. And I worked as a counselor. And when I was in graduate school, they always ask you, well, what do you want to do? What do you see yourself? And I said, I cannot do drug and alcohol counseling because I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't drink. And then my one of my graduate professors, she said, Scott, I want you to come work with me. I'm starting a VA, Veterans Administration residential treatment facility for homeless veterans. And I said, Dr. Tochi, that's not what I do. I don't know how to do that. How do I connect? And she said, number one, you grew up in a military family. Number
yes.
two, counseling doesn't mean you have to be in the situation. That's
Mm.
kind of why they go to you because you're the lighthouse, you're the beacon, you're that person that they can talk to. And from that moment on, another enabler, she put me on this track of helping her create this unique program of a homeless veterans facility. And so I helped her create that. And then she moved on. And so I ran it for a little while. And then I moved on. And then I
Wow.
just kind of became a counselor at Goodwill Industries International in Columbus, Georgia. And then an amazing opportunity came in where I was the director of a not for profit state initiative called Family Connection in Columbus, Georgia. And in that, I think that's where the idea of me working in an urban environment really blossomed because I was in a school setting, in an elementary school classroom that they allowed us to occupy. And I had a secretary, I had a nurse, I had a social worker on staff because my role was to get more parents involved in school and to really get the kindergarten program up and running because we had a lot of parents who were just not able to put their kids in kindergarten because you have to have shots, you have to have immunizations,
Oh, I see.
and simple things like bus money to go to the health department. That was an obstacle. So we just created a one-stop shop and did that for a long time. Had a great time doing that. And then at that time, my wife was finishing her degree in management information systems at Auburn, and she was wooed by FedEx. So FedEx said, "Hey, you want to work for us?" And she was like, "Okay." So we had to move from Auburn, Alabama to Memphis, Tennessee. And so I left my family connection job and I tried to do counseling there and it just did not work in Memphis. And one day, a colleague saw that I quit the counseling gig. I literally took my pager off, uh, printed out a note and put it on the desk and say, I can't do this anymore. Thank you for letting me And he said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, you know what? I miss being in a school. I miss elementary school. I miss the smell of the cafeteria. Yes, believe it or not. I miss the smell of the cafeteria and I miss kids. I miss teachers. And he goes, you know what? Let's go be teachers. And I said, it does not work that way, because I have this magic thing that you have to go to college to be a teacher. And then that's the only way. But he was like, no, Memphis city schools, just like most big cities, need teachers. And so, you have 3 years to complete your teacher certification program. And that's what I did as a brand new elementary teacher.
Oh,
And here I am 27 years later, still an urban educator and still enjoying life as an educator.
well, wow. I have to ask then, was that ingrained in your environment experience at Space Camp that you were around kids and students and fell
Right.
in love with it? Is that really where it
Right.
started?
I think that was something else that I look back at and I said, well, the other thing also is my mom, when she left Thailand, she was a teacher and all that just kind of evaporated because when she became an army wife, we moved around quite a bit and her English was never great. So she knew she would not become a teacher ever again. But she always instilled in my brother and I that she was a teacher and that, so that plus just being the guy, believe it or not, who was every once in a while called to the principal's office because he couldn't be quiet, you
Oh,
know?
come on now.
Right.
You?
And yeah, and that was another thing. My theater teacher in middle school slash high school in Zweibrücken, Germany, Dan Nukla. To this day, Mr. Nukla has this long following of Facebook high school students that I mean, he was that enabler who
Oh,
saw in me this fidgety kid who just needed time to talk, time to pretend to be someone else. So I had gotten in trouble for trying to make people laugh in class, and he said, Holcomb, you have two choices. You can either stay and go to detention after school with me for the next 3 days,
no.
or you can go to theater rehearsal and try to get a part in this play that I'm doing. And I
Well, if you
said,
put it
I'll
that
do
way.
right. I said, I'll do the play.
Yeah.
And that's where it started. He saw in me, and I've always kept that in my head that, Mr. Nukla, Mr. Welch, Mr. Harris, always saw the potential in me. And, as a teacher, I was always scanning the room and finding, and I think all teachers do that. We all know the kids who are us in the classroom.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we're really fixated on I recognize elements in myself in that child, good and bad, because there were lots of times that my students would be like, Mr. Holcomb, how did you know I was going to do that? I was doing that before you were born. I mean, how do you
That's
think?
right.
How do you think? But
That's right.
yeah, I think the reason I became an educator was just enablers, people who saw potential and said, how do I kindle that and how do I keep that momentum going? And for 27 years, that's been my momentum is seeing new crops, new generations of students. I even have a few third graders who I first began teaching with that became teachers, and I'm
Oh,
always excited to see them in the district and just be excited that they're teaching
oh,
as well. Yeah.
wonderful. What do you think of Space Camp today? It has grown
I
quite a bit since
I am
1986.
fascinated. I am so happy. And if you have not been back to the Space and Rocket Center, the U.S. Space and Rocket Center, no longer has it been the Alabama. I had to be corrected because I'm old. I was like, oh, I'm going to the Alabama Space, and they said no, it's the U.S. Space and Rocket Center, and I can see why. It's an amazing advancement of physical space, physical use of space, but still keeping that person like you and I who remember being campers and being crew trainer slash counselor, going back and just quickly going back in time, walking through the habitat, have one walking through the
Yeah.
bubble, and really just, I mean, the physicality of the space is there. The memories are still locked there. So if you have not gone back to the Space and Rocket Center, please do, especially during the summer when we have this alumni reunion. And it's nothing that you have to be a part of. Just sign up and come and hang
Yeah,
out. It's a great way to get backstage passes to kind of walk around and see some stuff that you may not have seen, just as a
absolutely.
museum guest, right? And plus, you're
Absolutely.
nerding out with us, like-minded
Yes,
folk,
we all
right?
get to nerd out again together.
Right,
I felt like I was standing next to a mega star when I got to see you and meet you. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're here. And the meta moment of seeing the movie that changed my life, Scott,
right,
and so many others. Plus, we got to sign the Pathfinder part,
right,
right?
right,
As they're refurbishing it and getting that
right,
ready to go. And we got to sign it.
right,
So, for something like that, so momentous, just to be part of that, that really is what Alumni Weekend's all about. We played a little bit of
right,
trivia. And you know what's funny? You never know when you turn the corner and there's an astronaut, both literally and in the museum, whether it's someone being honored for the Hall of
right,
Fame or whether it's someone returning. When we were there, you and I got to spend some time and talk to Cyan, Dr. Cyan Proctor from
right,
Inspiration
right,
4. And I remember, just sitting there watching the movie and playing trivia with her. And I'm
right,
like, I'm not going to argue with you, but I think that answer is wrong. But you're the expert. And we were laughing, having so much fun.
right,
But that's space camp in a nutshell. And it's like
right,
when you come back for that weekend, you just never know. There's so many
right,
people whose careers started there, and we're so lucky to still
right,
have, like you said, the older parts in the museum, the original parts,
right.
and then it's being added on and improved always.
Right. Even
What do
more,
you?
we got to see the behind the scenes.
Yeah,
I'm a huge Disney World fan. I didn't say Disneyland. I mean, I
me
love you,
too. Me
Disneyland, been
too.
there,
Same. Yeah.
but I'm a Walt Disney World person. And it's like, coming to the summer events is almost like D23. You're getting the behind the
Yes.
scenes. What we're about to build is this new training center floor, and you get to see the architectural mock-up, the computer generated flyby of this space. And you're like, oh, this is
You're
VIP
right.
access right here. Yeah.
Sometimes there's an unveiling or announcement.
Right.
You're right.
Right.
Yes. Oh, I'm so glad you said that. I have to ask this as we wrap up. There's a magic about
Mm.
camp. There's something that I'm always trying to find the words from, and I would love your words if you may, please. What is it
Oh,
about the student that walks in the door and then the student that walks out? What would you put words to that
right.
experience, that transformation? What is it about Space Camp that does that?
I really think that it's a mixture of locality because when you walk through, I mean, you really get a sense that this is for real. I mean, astronauts have come here. Matter of
Yeah.
fact, there's some that we're going to hear speak that are here. Those same astronauts who are in their late 20s, their 30s, their 40s, their 80s still flock to this space because we all dreamt that same dream of one day, staring at the moon and saying, one day I would love to be there. Or what's beyond the moon? What's out there in that blackness that is a part of me and I a part of it? And then when you've when you're young, the magic still lives inside of you. And that to me, and that's why I really wanted to teach elementary school because that magic, I can feel that magic there, that magic of wanting to know, wanting to learn. And I see that in young space campers,
Mm,
academy. Well, back then it was academy level 1, level 2, but coming into that space for the first time, knowing that this is legit. They've got simulators here. They've got real astronauts. Back then, they had real astronaut food, the freeze dried ice cream and stuff like that. And the kids all ate that stuff.
uh-huh.
Back then, they even had space shuttle chicken nuggets or space shuttle fries that were in the shape. So it was that theme of we get you. It was like Harry Potter of this past generation. It was
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
place that you knew that everybody around you was you, be they 26 and they're at college, but they're back here because they could have worked anywhere else. But there was something about this place. Either they had been former campers or aviation. Aviation Challenge, if you've not been there, is an amazing place to go check out. I, I will I will say that I was that, and I think a lot of us crew trainers realize that we were either Space Camp side or Aviation Challenge side. And I hate that happened
Uh-huh.
that way, especially during the time that I was there, because I never got a chance to go see that magic. And that is another magic that I even tout with students. I've sent a few students in my career to Space Camp as part of that Family Connection program. I think we sent about 6 kids to Space Camp. And then I took my first group of third grades. I think I took 5 of them to the Space and Rocket
Oh.
Center. So I was always trying to ignite that as this is what you can do. And it doesn't mean that you have to be an astronaut, or that, it's just, are you interested in space, aviation, science, robotics? You can do this, and you can be around people who get you and you get them. And it's an amazing place that transforms that person and solidifies that passion, that drive to seek out, to reach out. And again, it doesn't matter if you don't become the astronaut. That wasn't the whole point of Space Camp. The point of Space Camp is to kindle that magic, just like us as teachers, and to motivate it into whatever you become, an artist, a teacher. Big shout out to all the fellow teachers out there as well.
Yeah.
But all of us that are just trying to move you forward in life and saying, what do you want to do? Because life comes at you hard, you know,
Yeah.
and there are a lot of us who still don't know what we want to do. But I'm at Crosstown High School, an amazing public charter high school built inside a 1.5 million square foot retail space. It's the old Sears
Hey.
building here in Memphis. But the amazing young teachers that I've been graced with being around for 7 years since we opened in 2018, that rekindling of that magic, that drive that Space Camp brought me exists here. It's just, it's just, I don't know. I don't know if there's a word other than
You
magic,
do. You do have the word,
right?
Scott. I'd expect nothing less from a theater expert, actor extraordinaire. The
Just
perfectly
nerdy
said, in my
teacher,
opinion.
just nerdy teacher. Yeah.
And I'm glad. That's a very hopeful thing. I'm so glad to hear you say that because these days teachers have a really tough road and I know that kids have changed. I
Yeah.
know. The school systems have changed, environments have changed. A lot of post-COVID is still what we're
Right.
working through. But to hear your hopefulness in the teachers that are coming up and getting to learn from you, thank you. I'm really grateful to hear that. And you did find the words. And I love how you describe the magic of what Space Camp is. So many people are going to get to hear that. And if they were on the fence, get to go, make that decision. Do
Right.
not, don't, you've got to go.
Right.
Whether it's robotics camp, aviation challenge, or space
Right.
camp, all of it. And where can everyone find you, Scott, if they continue to have questions or send you your 5x7 to sign the photo? I'm speaking from a fan, a super fan.
Oh,
What's your address? Put it out. No, I'm just kidding.
no. It's funny that you say that. I've never been to a con. And one day, if we do a part 2 of this, I will tell you how I met LeVar Burton and he thought I was a stalker, and then met the entire bridge crew of Star Trek Next Generation all at one sitting. Uh,
Recently?
no, this was a couple of years back, but
Cool.
that was a funny story as well. But you know, I, I, and I think it goes back to one of the questions you asked about how, you know, I didn't do acting. I was just a counselor, then became a nerdy teacher. And 27 years, I'm still that nerdy teacher. But a couple of years ago, a colleague that saw the movie Space Camp and knew I was in it, they were all my fellow man. hype people, hype folk.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right. So they're always hyping me up. Matter of fact, my friend and executive director, Chris Terrell, has always been, he's the one that started the school along with Ginger Spickler, but he is always that one cool friend that we'd be in a group of people that were important. He goes, "Hey, Scott Holcomb here. His claim to fame is he was in that movie Space Camp. Do you remember?" And, they would be kind of our age and they'll go, "Yeah, that dude was in the movie." But I always appreciated that, but I was always embarrassed. But I loved that he did that because it felt so nice to not in a Scott is in a movie, but that movie Space Camp, and you could see it in their eyes.
Yeah.
I went to space camp, or I wanted to go to space camp, and you can, you got that chance. That was that jump in and start a conversation piece, and that was great. Speaking of that, if you're in the Memphis area, I have started an official sanctioned by the U.S. Space and Rocket Center, a chapter of the Space Camp
Yes.
alumni. And I'm
Yes.
slowly working through the process because I'm trying to go through teachers first to get teacher momentum build up. Because I do, as a teacher, want to get more teachers involved in this. I think that that's a missing opportunity for a lot of us because even now, as older or seasoned teachers, we may have gone to space camp as young
Yeah.
kids, but I think we kind of lost our way and forgot that it still exists. So
Well,
I
we had to
really want to
grow up.
reconnect
We had to
teachers.
pay
Right,
taxes, get jobs,
right.
and all that.
Well, but I really want to reconnect teachers to that. So I
Perfect.
set us up at Cross End High to be the kind of the focal point of the chapter of
Of
Memphis and surrounding
course.
areas. So
That's wonderful
if
news.
that plus I still do Twitter. I
Okay.
know that dude,
Great.
Twitter
X.
or X, right?
Yeah.
X, my apologies.
Perfect.
But,
What's your X
I
handle?
it's Hideo Takamine. And
No way.
that's how I was actually found by some folks at the Space and Rocket Center. They said, "Hey, we ran across this, and are you the guy that's in the movie Space Camp?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Wow, we'd love for you to come to our, alumni weekend
Oh
thing."
my
And I
gosh.
think that was around 2015 when someone found me and said, "Would you come and do like a guest panel?" And that's how it all started.
Oh my.
Another enabler
Yes.
who said, "Here's this dude on," back then it was Twitter, and he calls himself Hideo Takamine. Is this
That's
the
funny.
Hideo?
It's you.
So I still hold on to that. So if you ever
Okay,
have
can I put that in the
questions,
show notes?
right? Yeah,
I
just
can.
Hideo
Let everyone have
Takamine.
it. Oh my gosh. Okay, we'll do.
All
We'll
right.
do.
Now, when I show it
Perfect.
to teachers at a conference, they're going, "Hit, hada, hida, hida, who is this guy?" And I said, "That's just me." Long story, short
Yeah.
story. So
Oh, I love it. Well, we are so grateful. Thank you for sharing your story here for so many. For those of us, not only most of us who listen to the show, I'm sure have by now found their familiarity with Space Camp and all things because I'm
mm,
always touting it. But to have you has been such a pleasure.
well,
And
thank
not
you.
just your work with Space Camp, which this wonderful, very special, heartfelt cult classic that had opened doors for so many,
Right.
but your work as a counselor, your work in your life, and your work as who you are as a person, Scott. It's been a pleasure to just get to see you and talk with you and be here. I cannot wait to continue to talk with you. You got to come back on the show. I'm sure there's more
Yes.
museum
Oh,
behind
there
the scenes
is.
stories to share.
And photos. I've got some photos that I don't think anybody's
Oh,
ever seen before of some of the actors just being casual.
can you
Right.
send us one just for casual space? We'll
Yes, I
post it
can.
with your
Right.
episode. Oh,
Right.
thank you.
Sounds
Well,
good.
we'll do this and more.
Okay.
I'm honored to know you. Thank you,
You
Scott, for
as
your
well.
time
Thank you.
today.
I'm glad you stopped me and say, "Hey, nerd, come over here. Let's talk about," because
That's right. In
right. And I was
true
like,
love.
"Yeah, heck yeah." Yeah.
We nerds, we gotta stick together for
Right.
sure. I
Right.
had a friend once say, you always say the nerds and call yourself a nerd and the nerd girl and all that.
Uh-huh.
And it's just not nice. And I'm like, well, that's because you're not a
Right.
nerd. Because trust me, it's a compliment and I live it.
Right.
Trust me. And
Right. I
I'm like,
tell,
nerds unite.
right. I mean,
No
we're all
offense.
here. Times have changed. The
Space
nerd
nerds.
folk, right?
Oh,
My title at Crosstown High is "This is nerdy." My
Is it
title is
really?
Crosstown High. The official title is Director of Technology. Boring. But I call myself and my team of two people that are fellow nerdy educators, we are ed tech imagineers. You know, a
Oh, I
nod
like
to Walt
that.
Disney World and then a
Yes.
nod to education technology, which is
I thought you
different
were going
from
to say,
information technology.
I thought you were going to say nerd president or something like nerd title in the
Nerd
nerd, actually
Gandalf.
in the title. Yeah, people are having fun with titles these days for
All
sure. You
right.
could have a lot of fun. Oh, Scott, thank you. And again, I can't wait to see you back at Space Camp whenever you're going. And we're back for the alumni weekend. We're going
All
to put your
right.
contact and
Yes,
all
thank
things
you.
about your bio. And I hope people will go sit and enjoy the movie with their families. Now, there was a moment, you were probably there watching
Mhm.
it, where even my son, who's now totally used to, rightfully so in his life, the
Right.
CGI. And when we saw the 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 shuttle going to Daedalus in the movie, he
Uh-huh.
laughed out loud. He was like,
Right.
"Oh, I'm hearing the crowd laugh, the younger
Hmm.
students." And I'm like, "Don't laugh at that. That was for real in our mind. That
Right.
was
It
our
was.
virtual real
Right.
reality." So
Right.
much great. Oh, so great. So
Right.
Scott, come back, join us anytime. You are an honored guest. Thank you
Right.
for inspiring the lives of so many
Oh,
to go to
thank
camp.
you. I'm really hoping that the needle moves on creating Space Camp Part Two. I know that sounds blasphemous, but maybe even doing a continuation of Space Camp.
I know
Matter of fact,
someone.
right. See, there you go. Hideo Takamini's Revenge.
Oh, that is so,
Curse
that's
you,
just
Tate Donovan.
okay. I'm in. I'm in. I'll
All right.
hold whatever you need me to hold. I'll give
Right,
you
right.
lunch cafeteria food. I'll run it for you. Thanks, Scott. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you so much, Beth. Thank you.